On the morning of March 11, 2025, an incident of unimaginable terror unfolded in the heart of Pakistan's volatile Balochistan province. The Jafar Express, a passenger train that was traveling from Quetta to Peshawar, was hijacked by insurgents from the Baloch Liberation Army (BLA). The hijacking took place in one of the most remote and rugged parts of Balochistan, a region that has long been a hotspot for separatist movements and insurgent activities. The train was carrying approximately 450 passengers, including a mix of civilians, railway staff, and a contingent of military personnel. As the train cruised along the tracks through the desolate landscape, the attackers made their move. The militants, armed with sophisticated weapons and explosives, set off an ambush that derailed the train, sending it careening off the tracks. The violence was immediate and overwhelming, and passengers were thrown into chaos. The BLA insurgents, notorious for their demand for greater autonomy and self-rule for the Baloch people, seized control of the train, taking 182 hostages, primarily military personnel, but also a number of civilians who found themselves trapped in the nightmare. What followed was a harrowing standoff that lasted for over 30 hours. The BLA militants, who had planned the attack with military precision, were armed and determined. The attackers quickly divided the passengers, separating the soldiers from the civilian travelers, and they threatened to execute them one by one if their demands were not met. The BLA's demands were clear: the release of their imprisoned comrades from Pakistani prisons, or they would begin executing the hostages. The Pakistani military immediately sprang into action, deploying elite commandos from the Special Services Group (SSG) in an effort to rescue the hostages. The region, with its mountainous terrain and lack of infrastructure, made the operation exceedingly difficult. The train had derailed far from any major city, and the roads to the wreckage were treacherous. Still, the military pressed on with its rescue mission, moving rapidly to secure the area. As the hours ticked by, the situation grew more tense. Negotiations were attempted, but the BLA militants remained resolute, their threats growing more dire with each passing hour. Information began to surface about the brutal executions of hostages, though details were scarce. No official confirmations were provided, but the specter of bloodshed hung over the operation. As the rescuers closed in, the question of how many lives would be lost was still uncertain. Would the Pakistani military be able to intervene in time? Or would the insurgents carry out their threats? Finally, on the evening of March 12, the Pakistani military launched Operation Green Bolan. Special forces launched a carefully coordinated assault on the train, determined to save the hostages and neutralize the insurgents. The operation unfolded with fierce gunfire and explosions as the commandos made their way to the train. In the ensuing firefight, 33 insurgents were killed, and the remaining militants were either captured or fled. The rescue operation, while successful in freeing the majority of hostages, came at a heavy cost. 31 lives were lost in the ordeal: civilians, railway employees, and military personnel who were caught in the crossfire. As the dust settled, the dead were recovered from the wreckage of the train, while the survivors were taken to nearby medical facilities for treatment. The physical wounds were visible, but the psychological scars would remain for a lifetime. In the wake of the rescue, the BLA made a chilling claim: they had executed 214 hostages during their occupation of the train. However, there was no concrete evidence to support these claims, and the Pakistani government denied the accusations, stating that no such mass executions had occurred. Still, the idea of such brutal violence being inflicted on innocent civilians weighed heavily on the minds of those involved. The attack was not just a traumatic experience for those on the train, it also raised serious questions about the larger issues facing Balochistan. The insurgency in the region has been simmering for years, fueled by demands for greater autonomy, recognition of Baloch culture and identity, and control over the region's significant natural resources. Balochistan, rich in oil, gas, and mineral deposits, has long been neglected by the central government in Islamabad, which many Baloch nationalists claim has exploited the province's resources without sharing the benefits with the local population. The BLA and other separatist groups argue that the central government has failed to address the region's deep-rooted social and economic grievances, and the hijacking of the Jafar Express was an attempt to draw international attention to their cause. The BLA has also alleged that external actors, particularly India, have been supporting their struggle for independence, though there is no hard evidence to substantiate these claims. Pakistan's government has repeatedly accused neighboring countries of fomenting unrest in Balochistan in a bid to destabilize the region. The train hijacking served as a stark reminder of the volatile and complex situation in the province, where separatist movements, ethnic tensions, and government crackdowns have contributed to a long-standing cycle of violence. In the aftermath of the attack, Pakistan's leadership condemned the hijacking as an act of terrorism and called for stronger measures to combat insurgent groups operating in the region. The Pakistani military vowed to take more decisive action against separatist groups and ensure that such incidents do not occur again. But the reality on the ground suggests that this will be a difficult task. The insurgency in Balochistan has proven resilient, and the demands for greater autonomy remain a point of contention in the region. The hijacking of the Jafar Express is a somber reminder of the deep divides that exist within Pakistan and the ongoing struggle in Balochistan. It highlights the challenges the government faces in maintaining control over the province, and the risks of further escalation in an already volatile region. The survivors of the attack will carry the emotional and psychological scars of their ordeal for the rest of their lives, while the families of the victims will continue to mourn the senseless loss of their loved ones. For Pakistan, this tragic incident is another chapter in the ongoing saga of Balochistan's insurgency, a region where the fight for justice, freedom, and recognition continues to unfold in ways that few could have predicted. The hijacking of the Jafar Express is not just a moment of terror, but a flashpoint in a larger struggle that has shaped the history of Balochistan for decades. Whether this will lead to further bloodshed or push for meaningful political solutions remains to be seen. However, one thing is certain: the region is at a critical juncture, and the path forward will require bold leadership and a concerted effort to address the underlying grievances that have fueled this conflict for so long.